Welcome, everybody, to DAT Poker Podcast, episode 138. It is February 13th, 2023. I'm your host, Dave Schwartz, alongside Roscoe P. Coltrane.
You can charge after the game.
Nice old little reference. Love it. Terrence, how are you?
I'm great. I have booked my Airbnb for the World Series of Poker, Las Vegas 2023. Excited. Family's coming out for a few days. It's I'm very stoked. I don't think I've ever booked a place in February. I don't know why. I don't even know why I got so, but I got it. I got family coming out, babysitter. It's probably because I've got kids now. It's probably because I got two kids to be. The nanny's willing to go. She's down to go to Vegas. She's 20 years old, so she's going to get to go to the fun part of Vegas, but what are you going to do?
That's no problem. And Daniel in Las Vegas. Daniel, how are you?
Doing good, gentlemen. A little bit tired. A little bit. It was a great series we had here in Las Vegas, just on the tail end of that. And healing my little puppy, Rocky. I was walking him the other day, and he stopped walking. Couldn't walk. So I took him to the vet, and the vet said he might have a slip disc, so we got to look into that. And then, for now, he's on pain meds, so he thinks that he's fine. And the doctor was like, no jumping, no walking, no anything. He doesn't know that. I tried to tell him, he won't listen. But I'm really hard to keep him as, immobile as possible, because it's two options. Either A, can heal, but it takes a long time, or B, I might have to go, into surgery. So
we had a cat had surgery on his knee. The vet said 8 weeks, no jumping. Have you ever tried to get a cat not to jump for 8 hours? 8 weeks. We're trying to get
he said, actually, the vet said she wanted us to crate him, but we've never crated our puppy.
Yeah.
We never really crated him.
That was the only way we could stop.
Yeah. I'm not going to, I'm going to leave him in a crate for a month, and not know him out. So basically, I've just been sleeping with him, monitoring him, and trying to set up. I rearranged the couches and stuff so he can't jump and all that, but doing our best over here. Hoping Rocky's okay.
All right, let's jump into it. Terrence, Danny, you mentioned the Poker Go mixed game series that we've just come out of 8 events. I don't think you can qualify this as anything other than a huge success, right? I think it's nobody really kind of probably knew what the turnout would be. You put a series like this together outside of the World Series of Poker, and I'm guessing having all these events in a short period of time contributed to the success, because guys knew that they could come and play mixed games, cash games, and tournaments, for week 10 days or whatever it was straight. And instead of kind of having to come to a tournament series where there's a mixed game, then there's 3 no limit hold'ems, then there's a mixed game event, and the way that this was structured just seems like they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, a lot of credit to Tim Duckworth. He took in a lot of feedback from a lot of players to try to create a schedule that was fun, and it really was. I think the goal or the hope, based on what we know of the no limit fields, the goal and the hope was 40 to 50 entries per event. That would be considered a massive success, and we blew it out of the water. We actually had more unique entries into the first 2 events than we've ever had for no limit hold'em at Poker Go Studio. So each event was unique and different. We had a triple stud. That's never been done before. We had, of course, a triple draw mix, a horse, an 8-game, 10-game championship, and probably my favorite now. It's just such a unique event. And I'm curious as to your thoughts too on this too. The dealer's choice. I ended up coming third in the dealer's choice. I find dealer's choice to be fascinating. It is a little intimidating to some people because there's 20 different variants that are in that mix. And a lot of people, let's say, for example, that have never played Badoosie or Badacey, may feel intimidated. So it really does promote well-roundedness. But here's the thing about the game. The game you should call is so dependent and so ever-changing throughout the event based on so many variables, right? How deep you are, stack size. I'll give you an example. I was calling PLO at my table because I felt like there were a lot of limit players who were afraid to play big pots in PLO, which allowed me to realize my equity. They're not 3-betting properly and all that kind of stuff. Now, Ben Lam's at my table, and he doubles up. So I got Ben Lam on my left. Guess what? We're not calling PLO. So what do we switch to? We switch to limit hold'em, right? So we're constantly moving. And then, of course, if you get short stacked, you're looking at high-low regular or stud 8 in ICM spots and different things. So it's so fascinating, trying to figure out, too, what your opponents play poorly. I remember one year at the World Series, we had a Russian guy at the table, and someone called high-low regular. And in high-low regular, for those who don't know, it's no qualifier for high or low. So a hand like 2 queens, 2 kings is absolute garbage. because you can't scoop the pot. You're getting free roll all the way. And this guy would just play every split pair. So 5 out of the 6 rounds we were playing Halo Riga. It's kind of annoying. It felt predatory. But anyway, so like just thoughts, like how would you approach it, Terrence, and like Adam, in terms of like game choice and how you?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the things that I think about the most are the ISM slots. So like you said, if you short stacked on the bubble, a high-low, like a split pot game is best. If you're short stacked, an ante game is the best, because ante games are great for just like if you've got less than one bet, you want to be playing an ante game, because you can essentially 8x your ante. We can't do that in a limit in a game that doesn't involve an ante. So you can tailor the game based on what your stack size and position is. I'm trying to think of the best game to think of if you were a big stack on the bubble, because I know the best games if you're short stacked on the bubble are split pot games with antes. I think it might be something like triple draw, because it doesn't have an ante, so you don't get an overlay. People don't want to get involved in pots. It might even be like limit hold'em, because maybe not, because like triple draw is a really bad game when you're short stacked, because you have to see future streets, because you're like priced in. You're like, okay, I've got a 2-card draw, I call. I still got a 2-card draw, I call. Okay, now I improved to a 1-card draw, I call. It's really kind of crappy that way. Whereas other games you can actually, like a game like Limit Hold'em, you can just like check fold the flop. It's not a big deal if you missed.
Yeah, no. So it's interesting you brought that up, because I'm going to give you a scenario that I was in. I was like below average, like on the bubble, not a big stack or whatever. And here's the like interesting thing, right? I look at the player who's next to go in the big blind, and he's short on chips. He's got like 2 big bets left, right? So what's in my best interest to call in that spot? And I think it's absolutely a slam dunk, limit hold'em. Because limit hold'em forces him to put a big bet in, right? And, now once he puts another one, it's very difficult to like, just, fold for a small one. It's the most, you have to scoop the pot. You're offered.
Imagine that. I want to put the situation. So you're the guy in the big blind. Daniel's in the small blind. It's folded around to Daniel. He raises because he has 2 cards, and you have no chips. And you have Queen 9. Now that's a defend. Like you have to defend Queen 9. Now the flop comes Ace 3-5, and he bets. Like, what are you gonna do? Call it off with Queen 9 for your whole tournament life when like you could just fold for an orbit and maybe you min cash? I don't know. It's terrible.
I feel like when you think about what games apply the most pressure. Triple draw is a game, though, where you can just like wait for a hand that's like, all right, I'm good for 3 streets. I know I'm going with this hand, but I have 3 to a wheel. Let's go.
Right.
Limit hold'em, the thing about limit hold'em is you're rarely going to get a really good hand like that, right? What is a good hand like that in limit hold'em where you're like, oh, I'm going with it no matter what? Aces, kings, queens, ace, king, maybe. Like, but there's some spots. But with triple draw, your decision, I want to make the decision. The decision's easy. All right, got 3 wheel cards. I check call all the way. See if I make it, and then we're good. And if not,
it might be Badugi too, because Badugi, you almost never start with a good hand.
Yeah,
like you kind of.
I'm going to say Badugi too.
Yeah, you sort of create a good hand as you go in Badugi.
I don't think Badugi is much, because like, if you get any, it's actually, it's interesting because I folded a Badugi hand, I think it was a mistake earlier. But like in Badugi, a decent amount of the time, you're going to get like 2 cards 5 or lower that are offsuit, right? You can draw 2 in the big blind against one player. If they're drawing 1, you can make a better 3 card.
But if you're the big stack, you can just snow the guy, right? Like you're a big stack.
You can't snow if they don't have enough bets to continue, right?
That's true. You're like, oh, bad bet. Oh, I guess I
like 2 pair. You guys like, yeah, that's good. But no, really just interesting spots where I was constantly thinking about what is the game to play, right? And I thought it was a really good exercise. So it made me think, and then some people came up with some really cool ideas, because the dealer's choice, which we assumed was going to get a little bit lower numbers than the rest, because again, some people are afraid of some of the games. So what is a way to like, get people who are afraid to play in there? There was this one idea, and I know this is not logistically a good idea because it's too much, but everyone gets 20 plaques, right? Every player gets one of the 20 plaques, and you pick a game when it's your turn, and then that plaque's gone. So let's say you like limit hold'em. Well, if you call limit hold'em the first round, you lose it. So maybe you don't call limit hold'em early. You call the game that you hate, right? And you get rid of it early, and then you hang on to what you think is better for you later.
I love it.
It's super fun. I mean, obviously, again, it's a bit of the logistical nightmare having 20 plaques. The other thing we could do is we could create some dealer's choice events that are a little more limited in terms of the number of games. So maybe not 5-card draw high, Badusi, Badesi, like maybe something like the 10-game mix or whatever. Then you can only choose from one of those 10. Or we could even just have like a 20-game rotation. Because listen, if you're playing a 20-game rotation and you suck at Badugi and Badesi, that's 2 rounds you just fold. And that's it. What you don't have to face is like a lot of players would find, like that Russian guy, is if you really suck at one of these games, everyone's going to call it, right?
I heard Crazy Mike folded out like PLO in every
hand in PLO.
Yeah.
Just folding PLO.
which is very on brand for Crazy Mike. But I wanted to ask, like, you mentioned Badusi and Badesi, and these are, for people who don't play like mixed games a lot. Like, these are the games I've noticed when I look at like day 2, day 3 of the World Series Dealer's Choice, these games are constantly getting called because it feels like there's such a huge discrepancy between those games. So I think, removing those games, it kind of removes it from the spirit of Dealer's Choice. But on the other hand, like, Dealer's Choice is like so bad if you've never played.
Well, there's another game that is the bloodiest fucking game ever, and we're gonna talk about this hand because it's amazing. This is such a crazy hand. Pot limit triple draw. If you've never played pot limit triple draw, it is very different than limit triple.
Very big.
It is fucking bonkers. It is by far the biggest game in any rotation because you end up putting huge amounts of chips in a pot and then, like just being in. So this hand, Dan Zach raises, Adam Friedman calls the button, I defend the small blind. The draw is 2, Dan Zach 1, and then Friedman takes 2. On the next draw, I check, Zach bets, Friedman calls, I call. Now Zach stays pat. Okay? Friedman draws 1, I draw 1. Right? One more draw left. I check in the dark, which is pretty customary. Dan Zach bets like 125,000. Adam Friedman goes all in for about 220. I'm in the small blind and made deuce 3, 4, 5, 8, which is the 5th strongest hand. But these people are drawing a 7 and stuff like that, so it's a tricky spot. I go all in. Now Dan Zach, who has 125 in, has about 250, 270 behind. He tanks for 3 minutes. And he has...
Hang on. When he tanks for 3 minutes, what do you put him on?
I think he has either one of 2 hands. Either the worst 7, 7, 6, 5, 4 deuce, or the exact same hand as me. So number 4 or number 5. I think 1, 2, or 3, slam dunk, but 4 or 5, tough spot. So anyway, he tanks for 3 minutes. He folds the deuce 3, 4, 5, 8. So now I'm heads up with Friedman, okay? And I rep Pat. Now this is the crazy part. He has deuce 4, 5 of spades, a 6, and an 8. So he has 8-6. But he knows there is no universe where I would have a worse hand than 8-6 here, right? So now the question is, Terrence, Adam, whatever.
You might have to draw 2.
God, what are you drawing to? Because is deuce 4, 5 or spades? If you catch the 3 and 7 of spades or the 6, 7 of spades, you lose. You make a flush. So what do you do here?
I think that's very unlikely. Like you basically making specifically runner spades is only.
Listen, how many combos do you think you have to win? Right. Players you already don't have a lot of combos that you're going to win. Right. Like you already don't. And now you're eliminating the ones that are spades. You're eliminating 6, 7 of spades and 3 of spades. So that leaves just the 3, 7 and a 6, 7 that are not spade. And you have to assume that some of those cards are out
because you can catch 1 spade, so it's fine. So you can catch 1 spade. So you have 6 combos. You have 6 combos that won't make you a flush and 2 combos that will make you a flush, right? So it's 25% of the time you make a flush when you make the hand that you're trying to make.
So how many would you draw?
So I got to draw.
Well, so I don't know your hand, right? So like it's the thing is like the 8 perfect is close to the bottom of your range, kind of, right? Like so
it is like 8, 6, 4, 8, 5, whatever.
Yeah, so he has to assume an 8-6 is no good, right? So you can't just draw to a chop. You have to like just draw 2, and that's pretty gross.
I think because it's 2, 4, 5 spades and it limits, I think you're supposed to keep the 6 and just hope that I have an 8. But anyway, so he drew 2, and the first card he caught was a 6. So he's drawing 5, and luckily he whiffed the river. But what a crazy spot where Dan had an 8-5, and I actually think he has a pretty trivial fold there. When I'm out of position against 2 all-ins, it's just a 7, usually, or like 8-5. It's never going to be, anything we give that. So, yeah, super fun, but that's a crazy game. I think I
want to quickly just ask when we're talking about game selection, like, at what point do we, not be a slave to little bits of EV and just play games you want to have fun with? Like you do a little bit of that. Like you do a little bit of that, and you do a little bit of this too.
This is why Adam Friedman, he's one of the best. He's he won this fucking tournament 3 years in a row at the World Series. Yeah. Part of what he does is early on, he calls all kinds of carnival games, whatever, to see how people play them, right? So he feels really balanced and comfortable in all the games, and he's not afraid of big bet, which is key, right? He'll play anything. But once he notices a couple of your weak games, now he's figured out what he's going to be calling, right? I called early on because I had a bad table draw. I called limit Omaha High, like a stupid ass game, but just to, you get a sense of what's going on. And eventually I pretty much stuck to a diet of PLO, I had some chips and whatever, but it's just, I find it so fascinating in terms of like adding a skill element to poker where, you have to figure out what is in your best interest. And that dynamic changes, especially later in the tournament when you're closer to the money stuff. It changes every hand depending on who won the pot, who lost the pot. Like when Ben Lamb, he won that pot and he doubled up, and now it's, now I got a big stack with all my left. PLO is no longer an option for me. So it's just because that's his best game, and I'm out of position against one guy who's like, equal to me. So now I figure what neutralizes him. And then on the bubble, like you said, Terrence, try to think like, all right, as the big stack, what are the bloodiest games that I can like absolutely take advantage of people with? Limit Omaha High is actually not a bad one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Because, you always have something. Like, I think any game where the equities run really, really close, right, is good for the big stack.
You want games where people want to put in money on the early streets but fold on the turn. Like limit games with no antes where people fold on the turn.
I think most importantly, you want to play games as a big stack where you get punished the least for playing every hand, right? So in Omaha High, I raised with King 9, 7, 5. Who gives a shit? It's 4 fucking cards. I put in like 2 bets. Nobody's going to 3-bet, because there's no point in Omaha High. And so now I get to see a flop and I flop a 5. Cool. It's like, you can't push me out of the pot with PLO. So short stacks, they have to avoid as much as possible these situations because they don't have the full equity they would in a game like No Limit Hold'em where they can jam. Another interesting spot, if you're a big stack, for example, is let's say you like big bet, you like No Limit Hold'em, right? Well, if you're a big stack and there's a bunch of short stacks, you'd rather call pot limit hold'em. Why? Because now people can't jam on you. They can only open for like 2.5 or 3.5x or whatever. They can't jam.
Also no ante, so you're not getting anteed off.
No, there would be an ante. We play.
Oh, there isn't. Okay, is there an ante PLO 8? Because that's another game.
Ante in every game.
Okay.
All the
Okay, because I was thinking PLO 8 is probably like actually the best short stack game because you could just it's also really slow.
Big O is another good one for sure.
Yeah, it's the other thing. Big O and PLO 8, they're slow. Like they actually physically take a long time to deal. Like when there's a pot, you have the dealers to chop the pot. They take a long time versus game like Limit Hold'em plays very, very fast. So it's very punishing for the small stacks. So if you're short late and you're not like the shortest stack, like PLO 8 and Big O, those are games that are good because they're slow.
Yeah, but I do think like from like a hand per hand perspective, and I didn't even think about this before. I used to think stud 8. But no, it's actually high-low regular. So essentially, what is high-low regular? It's stud 8, but you don't have to make the 8. So let's say you start with a beautiful hand.
You're usually getting half.
3, 4, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you catch a 9, queen, king, you have nothing, right? Where at least in this game, you still have a 9 perfect. Like, you're still going to be okay. And it's very difficult to get scooped. You want to play games that it's difficult to get scooped in and high-low regular. Because I noticed Dan Zach was calling it and a few others on the bubble because, they'd gotten short. But such a fascinating event, super fun to play. I got another hand because what the hell? I had a fun time. Let's talk another hand. Why not? Whatever. It's a poker box
game special.
This one was really, I was in the blender for 3 minutes and it's my final bust out hand in the 10 game championship, which I doubled up in 100 times as like, I had less than one big bet on like 8 different occasions and ended up like with over $1 million in chips on several occasions. So this final hand for me, we were 6-handed. Okay. It's a 10 game mix. So we're in the no limit hold'em phase. I'm way far and fit in 6th. I have 640K at 20 and 40,000 big blind with a 40,000 ante. So I have 16 bigs, right? I'm on the button with 8-9 of hearts, and I mid raise to 80K. Jeremy Osmus is the one player. He's got more chips. Everybody's like in the different stratospheres of me. No one's got less than like 1.5. And I know Jeremy Osmus is going to defend really wide against the mid raise, right? But I have a hand that has good playability, so I don't really mind that much playing the hand in position. So he calls. The flop is queen, queen, 4, 2 clubs and a heart. He checks, and this is a spot where a solver will tell you, you are 100% betting 8-9 hearts, 100% of the time. So what do? Check. Because I have some exploited reasons why I do that. So I check. Now the turn is the 8 of clubs.
Do you check your whole range there? Like almost every?
No, I don't check my whole range there, but I check a lot more probably than, like, obviously I don't range check it. I don't range bet it, but I bet it a decent amount. So anyway, so the turn is the 8 of clubs. Now he bets 125. I call. River is a 4. So the board is now queen, queen, 4, 8, 4 with 3 clubs. I have 435 left. There's 470 in the pot. Jeremy Osmus goes all in. What do y'all do there?
I mean, I think you're too high up in your range. You probably will have to. So you're already in the money, right? Like there's
Yeah, we're in the money. And like I said, from an ICM perspective, the 435, I'll give you a little more. The 435 represented 2.5 big bets in limit poker.
Right. I mean, I think I feel like this after call, but I guess the question is like, if you don't check back queens here, then like you're absolutely at the stone top of your range.
Of course, I can check back the queen. If I ever check back this flop, I'm obviously checking back.
You have to check back some queens, yeah. But I feel like you're still, yeah. Well, maybe it's closer then. Well, I wonder what happened to limping is tipping when you open.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, well, I was on 16 bigs, and I don't really
but that's the thing. At 16 bigs, I feel like you really don't want to get shoved on with 8-9 of hearts. You don't want to open.
No, but I also don't think that he's going to shove like extra wide in this spot. Like, so here's my thought process. Like, Jeremy's the only player at the table that I would call, because I do know Jeremy is very well studied in No Limit. I also think that he's going to perceive that to be the game in the mix that gives him the biggest advantage. So he's more likely to take some higher variance lines, right? He also knows in the spot that I'm going to be folding a shit ton. Like if I don't have a queen, I'm just folding like a lot. I think he's going to think that. And the size choice he makes is just going to be the standard size. Like he's not betting less than that if he's bluffing. So on the turn, he could have like a whole bunch of hands. Jack 9 off, 10-9 off with a club, like just a million different hands that he can bet turn with. And if he bets turn, he's going to be also following through on the river. The other aspect of the hand that I thought was interesting for me is, again, if I win the hand and he's bluffing, I have 1.5 million. It puts me like right in the hunt, right? If I fold and I get bluffed, now I have like 2.5 big bets and I'm nowhere near the rest of the field. So in some senses, I felt like, even for those added reasons, this wasn't an ICM spot where I'm like, I can wait anyone else out or anything like that. It felt like I tanked for like 3 minutes. Called, he showed the queen 5 off suit. And I drove home thinking about it and thinking about how much I enjoyed being in the tank for minutes. It was actually a fucking blast. I loved every second.
Actually, do you check back a 4? How often do you check back a 4 on the flop?
Not very often. A 4 is going to be a bet. I think
so. If you don't check back a 4, then I guess you have to probably call with an 8.
Yeah, I'm going to bet a 4 there just to not deny equity with that hand.
Yeah,
for sure. Like I'm going to bet on that flop. I'm betting 3s, deuces, 4s, a 5. There are some hands I check. This is one of them in some cases when I have.
You're not checking pocket 9s to pocket 10s. You're not checking.
I am checking
the jacks. Really?
No, I am checking. I'm checking aces, kings, jacks, 10. Checking a lot of these hands for pot control and different reasons. But the 8-9 of hearts too, I felt like it has some backdoor equity as well because there's queen of hearts out there. So I have a couple cards that can come off. And again, like I said, I do check back queens there. I do check back stronger than some because most people just bet always. But anyway, I went home, driving home. The more I thought about the hand, the more I liked the call. Like I think I ran it and it's in theory, it just says bet the flop, right? And I know that. If you did bet the flop.
So it's going to give you a garbage result.
Well, it gives you a result. It's about 50-50. It's 60-40, whether you should call or fold. But against Jeremy in the situation, I felt good about the call because if you start to get a reputation as a guy who makes really big folds in spots like that, and I knew that he knew that I didn't want to be out of the fucking tournament, especially because I have a good feel for the limit games. That's even more reason why it's a good spot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and if you overfold in these spots, like, you're making too many of these laydowns, players will start to pay attention to that and they'll start to stick it to you, in a really big way.
How did you feel like, so, I mean, I think I followed your results. I think that was your only deep result. I'm sure that was like disappointing because I'm sure you were really. Oh, did you ever?
I cashed in the first event. I came 12th. I had good chips in that. And then I came. So here's another thing. Let's share something else. Just a little bit, probably shouldn't share this on the podcast, but I'm going to share it. There's no hurt feelings here. There's no feelings of scam. This is a good one for you. If you were the jury, all right? The night before, in the dealer's choice, I came third. I won the last longer. There's a last longer pool that they did, right? Won the last longer. I don't chop. I never chop in tournaments. I don't chop ever, right? Like I played millions of dollar tournaments. I don't chop, nothing. So now we're in the 10-game championship. There's a last longer, 16 people, 32K on the line. We're in the money. Nacho Barbero says to me, he's like, oh, sick. We're the only two left. Like, we both have about $1 million we could chop, right? And I'm in the middle of the hand as he's saying this. And I'm like, we could, like, just like that. And I laugh. Like, we could laugh, right? So then, he talks, but nothing followed up that, nothing at all, right? So now he busts the tournament, okay? He comes up to me and says, how did we do? And I said, what? I said, we didn't chop, bro. I never chop. I would never chop, right? So I leave. I go to the bathroom. I come back, whatever. Think it's a done issue. I have a text message that I sent my buddy Josh saying, hey, I'm heads up for the last longer with him. I scooped the last longer, all time stamped and everything. So the next day I text Bryce, who was running the thing, and I say, so Bryce, what do you, he says, oh, I got 16K for you. I'm like, 16? He said, it's 32. He said, Nacho said you chopped. So Nacho took 16, right? Because Nacho's mind, he thought I said yes, right? So the extent of what I said was we could and laughed. Now, we're going to have to go to arbitration here because from my perspective, had he won, there was precisely zero chance I would take a single cent because I had zero intention at any point of chopping and never would, right? So now we're going to take it to arbitration. I'm curious what you guys are not going to be the arbitrators, but what would you do?
You got a language issue there, right? Like, I don't know. You would have a better idea of how completely fluent Nacho is than I do. But it's not his native language. So
speaks English pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think that's the problem.
Intent, right? We're on the margins here with intent, with language and stuff. It's not his first language. So, I mean, I don't know if that's an issue, but you guys know better than I do. I don't see how saying we could is yes, let's chop. I don't know how you can make that jump to say yes. If you said we could and nodded, or if there's something else that, maybe happened or something like that, I don't know. I don't know how you can get to that's a chop. That would be...
Yeah, without hearing his side of the story, it's very hard for me to side on with his side. I mean, I'm certainly not going to accuse him of shooting an angle or anything like that, but
I don't think,
there's no deal.
Wholeheartedly in my mind, again, neither of us are scamming each other here.
Yeah.
Right? I believe wholeheartedly in his mind, he thinks I agreed and said yes, I'm chopping, right? There was no follow-up, and I was literally in the middle of a pot, right? Which I'd won. So now, obviously, the chips are a little bit off, which would, but typically when you make a negotiation of something oh, we should bet this, we should bet that, I was like, yeah, let's bet. How about this? It's not confirmed until you both say, okay, we're locked in. Right?
Booked. Yeah, usually people say booked.
Something. Me just saying we could, with a question, laughing, I really had no intention. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the judge and jury says. But again,
was there anybody else at the table that would remember it? Were the people?
David was at the table, and David.
Oh, that's a perfect person. I think.
Well, he's not going to be one of the arbitrators, but we have 3 others. But David was at the table, and he thought I said we chop. But I remember, he said it in the middle. He's like, well, you guys should decide, so, before this hand's over, because
Yeah.
But nothing was said after that. David, in fairness, he's like, I thought you guys did, but he didn't really listen for the verbiage or anything like that. But it was Nacho clearly wanted to. He's like, oh, let's chop it, 16, whatever, like this. And he was excited and whatever, and just whatever. I'm in the middle of a hand, and it wasn't even addressed. After that point, there was no follow up of so are we booked? We chopping? Anything, right? There was no confirmation at any point where I'm like, okay, yes, we can chop. Nothing. So, for me, listen, it feels like I'm getting free rolled because he says, oh, I would give you half the money if I won. I'm like, I wouldn't take it. There's no chance. I know myself. I've been in the industry 30 years. I'm not out here trying to scam a guy for 16K. I don't think Nacho is either, right? I really don't. I think he thinks it. But now the question is, from a gambling perspective, what? Because I feel what the fuck? I mean, I just yapping. I didn't agree to nothing. Fuck. Did I need to specifically say no? I do not want to chop at all. I think you do need to be careful. I mean, I would rule, if I was one of the arbitrators, I would rule in your favor. You don't owe him anything, but I would also say you probably should be more careful in the future. I agree. Now after this, it's nothing like this has ever happened before. I'll emphatically say no. So anybody in history, I'll use this as evidence. I never chop. So if you ask me, the answer is no. If I laugh, if I giggle, that's not a yes. Right. So So that happened. But listen, like it's not good. There's going to be no hard feelings here. Whatever they decide, I'm all for, whatever. But it was annoying. You know what I mean? Like it was annoying too because I went to the bathroom and then he went and took it. And I was like, what? Literally, he said to me after, he's like, I thought you were fucking with me. So he thought I was fucking with him, right? And I wasn't, but I thought he was fucking with me. So, I don't know, bro.
This is all because of the props.
Complicated though, like because like again, from my side, for me,
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right.
These things happen.
They do occasionally. The 10 game, just quickly talking about the 25K 10 game championship. Jason Mercier takes it down. His first tournament win, I think, since 2019. He's been away with his family, and I was just curious, Daniel, your thoughts on his game. Like, obviously, when he left, he was at the top of his game, mixed game guy. I think he's got 4 bracelets in mixed games. Is he just a savant who can kind of get right back to the top of his game, or do you think it's going to take some time?
No time. No, he's good. He played fucking great. Like I played with him, late, a few spots, whatever. He was playing great. He was really focused. He was dialed in. Every bet mattered to him. A limit bet on the end, a limit bet on 6th Street. He wasn't just throwing it in. He was contemplating. He had a very Chip Reese-like-esque sort of vibe where it's like you could see like he was never doing anything that was like, oh, this seems crazy. This seems wild. It seems stupid. He made 2 really good calls. One, I mispriced in a no limit hand. And another, he called carry cats in a spot that nobody calls carry cats. The board was like 10, 10, 7, 7 blank. And there was like 150 in the pot and carry jammed for 300K. Right? And Jason called with ace high, which was good, which is like, again, not something. And then, so he's still got the feel. I talked to Jason about it. He said he really enjoyed playing live poker again, because he's like, you play online a little bit. You don't get to see faces. You don't get to get all that extra information or whatever. But yeah, I mean, listen, he's a daddy, right? He's got his kids, and that's what's kept him away from the World Series because he wants to be a good father, which he is. But now you start to see like him and Natasha, like he takes it, like he came out, play one event, the World Series, PLO. He came like 4th or 5th. He came out to the mixed games, play one event, the 25, the 25K, he won it, right? So I think part of it is for him, he appreciates playing so much because he doesn't get a chance to do it as much as he like probably because he's, a dad, that he really, gives it his all. And his all is really damn good. He's about, of the young players, like, mixed games, whatever, he would be a horse I would back against any field. Like,
what is it like? What does he do well? Like you mentioned, obviously making a great read on carry, but what does he do well?
So he does several things. One, he avoids spots that are like marginal, that are just disasters, that could lead to disasters. Like he's never in a spot where you're like, oh man, he's in bad shape here, right? Like he approaches those things and he thinks it through. Like I said, listen, he called off 300K, which was a substantial bet in a no limit hand. So he really thinks it through, He has a good understood. He's always had good card sense. He's always been able to like learn new games in different situations, things like that. You don't see him just like, I mean, he bluffs, but like he doesn't get caught either. You know what I mean? He times them very, very well. He picks really good spots. He's got great hand reading skills in all the games, which is like the most important thing, especially in a lot of the stud games. It's an undervalued asset to just have a feel for where people are at, and whether they paired their whole card or whatever the case may be. He just plays all the games well. He's always been an all-around athlete in that regard. And as his kids get a little bit older, I would imagine he'll be back at the World Series, popping off bracelets. The question is when, because a lot of people in World Series Poker Fantasy, if he's going to play a full schedule, he goes right up there for $100.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the World Series of Poker. The entire schedule was released. We talked about it earlier, May 30th to July 18th at the newly branded Horseshoe Hotel. It used to be Bally's, and Paris as well, coming up in the summer in Las Vegas. 95 live events this year. All right, 34 online events. And sorry, as I mentioned, 95 live events. A huge schedule, just massive. And the online events were interesting because there is 20 in Nevada and New Jersey, and 7 in Michigan and 7 in Pennsylvania, bringing the total to 129 bracelets this year. We've talked before about the cat's out of the bag. There's bracelets flying around all the time now. 129 this year. But instead of going through the whole schedule, I thought what we do is each week maybe go through a week of the schedule so we can sort of build up and go. So why don't we go to the first week? It always starts off with event number one, the casino employees no limit hold'em event. $500 buy-in, always a fun one to sweat and watch. Event number two, they're bringing a high roller right up to the start. They do usually I think they had a 40K one year. This year, it's event number 20, or event two is the $25,000 high roller six-handed no limit hold'em. Right out of the gate. Daniel, thoughts on getting a big one out of the gate right away? Your high rollers right off to the start there.
Yeah, no, as you said, they do this pretty much every year, whether it was a 25K horse or a high roller. And it's good, because I like the episode. Here's the thing. Fedor Holtz tweeted this out. He tweeted that, if the World Series would do it right and put all the high rollers together, they would get much more attendance for their high rollers, right? But he's missing the bigger picture, right? First of all, it's a 7-week series, right? Not everybody can necessarily pick 2 weeks. People like to come and go, whatever the case may be. I understand from his personal perspective, being able to travel for just, 2 weeks, 10 days and play all these big buy-ins is great for him. But the whole idea behind the World Series is we want everybody to come, right? We want you to be there for the whole thing, right? We want you to come and enjoy. We want you to be there early. So what this series, and listen, you don't have to play every single one, right? So what we do is with the schedule, there's a balance. There's mixed games throughout the whole series. There's big high roller, no limits, and PLOs. You're going to find those littered throughout. So you can pick and choose when you want to come and go. And there's going to be a week or two in the schedule where maybe you say, all right, I'll go home, I'll come back, whatever the case may be. But again, this is unlike any other festival. This is the World Series of Poker, right? So you want to try to create, and I think, honestly, this is the best fucking schedule they've ever put together. They did a great job. I went through with a fine-tooth comb to see if there's any major conflicts. Everyone said, you know what you should do? Put the $1,500 mix before the 10K. Done. Within reason, 3-4 days apart. We've got high rollers throughout the entire series or something to play. And there's, I don't know. They just really, really crushed it. And I love the idea of starting off with this. Last year, actually, we had an event that did not work. It was a 100K bounty tournament, $100,000 buy-in bounty tournament. The problem with that, with these high rollers, is re-entering becomes negative EV late. Mike Makita Bajikowski was one of the best. He didn't even re-enter. He would, right? Obviously. But what happens is if you re-enter late on day, to start a day 2 or late, a lot of the prize pool is already gone. 25K per man or something like that. So we scrapped that one and going with this 25K six-handed no limit. It's a good way to kick it off with a bang. And then of course, I'm sure you'll go along with it. There's something for everybody, and that's what I like throughout the series. If you are a high roller, low spot, you're gonna have some. If you want to play super small tournaments throughout there's a full schedule for you. You're not going to be deprived at all, and it gives everybody the best of both worlds. Whether you're a mixed game players, there's mixed throughout everything. You got it all covered, all angles.
Terrence, is 95 live tournaments, are we getting to the point where, okay, that's enough? That's enough in one series?
No, why not? People love the World Series poker. I don't see any reason there should be an arbitrary limit. I mean, people are going to be like, oh, they give away too many bracelets. So what? So what? It's great.
I think I'm more, are we going to bust there's 195 too many. You're busting everybody at some point, right?
No, it's only 195 is only too many from a perspective of staffing and logistics. And the World Series of Poker is under no responsibility to ensure the health of the poker ecosystem economically. They're under that is not a responsibility. Where the people who can show up for the World Series, if they had 195 events, a lot fewer people would play all of it. Daniel would almost certainly win Player of the Year because who the fuck else would play that many events?
Not me.
Yeah. So yeah, there'd be 3 people trying to win Player of the Year. But no, I think it's totally
in the future. I think in the future, I really do. I think we'll get to a point where there'll be 100 bracelet events total for the year, total. And what that means is, the World Series schedule right now having 95 live ones would limit the ones that are outside of that. So we probably shorten the schedule, make it even more impactful. Because I do think it does get a little cockamamie, a little crazy to have, like you said, 195. Again, I used to play the World Series poker when it was a 2-3 week event total. And there was, 15 events or something like that.
And if you busted in the first level, you had to go home for the whole day.
Oh, and if you were there at 12:05, when the event started at 12, you got to try. You missed it. You missed the foul. You can't play. Yeah, and there was no late reg. We had no late reg available.
Well, they shouldn't ban late reg. They should only ban maximum late reg.
Yeah, that's the big problem. Mike says, you know what the problem is? It's not late reg. It's max late reg.
That is the problem. Event number 3 is the very exciting $1,000 buy-in Mystery Millions. No Limit Hold'em. There's going to be 4 flights. This year they have 2 $1 million prizes guaranteed. One is the mystery bounty to be drawn, and the other is first prize in the tournament is going to be guaranteed to be $1 million. This one is just going to, I don't know. I can't see any way that this isn't a huge success. People are going to flock to this thing, especially after what happened last year and the results. So
if Matt Clance wins, how long does the Nevada Gaming Commission investigate?
Please no. Yeah, pretty pumped for that one. I think if you're a No Limit Hold'em player at all and you're excited by stuff like this, you really should get out there for that one. The Tournament of Champions pushed up as well. Event number 4, Daniel. This one is early as well. I don't know what the rationale was there to get the quote unquote known crew there early to play in this thing, or if there's something else there. Any thoughts on why that's moved to the front of the?
Yeah, it's funny you ask, because like I actually was like wondering what it even was originally. It's not something that's my jam. It's mostly, I think, from what I remember, it's people who won bracelets the year before, and also circuit winners from the calendar year or something like that. So I don't really have a strong opinion, frankly, in terms of where they put that. Like putting it at the end doesn't really matter if you're not going to count people that won bracelets this series, and it was from the year before. So whatever. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it just fit. Like, again, it's just what else went on around then, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Event number 5 is the $1,500 Dealer's Choice. 6-handed. We just talked about Dealer's Choice. If you want to get out and play that one, listen to some of the strategy tips Daniel and Terrence talked about earlier there.
Learn how to play Badusi and Badesi is basically
you're going to play it.
Strategy. And then maybe like a little bit of like 5-card draw high, because people are going to call that too if they realize you suck at it. And if you're just drawing 2 a lot in 5-card draw high.
I'm very good at 5-card draw high.
How did you get to call it during the BGT Mixed Game Series?
I did call it a few times. Yeah. There are
were other people bad at it?
Yes, absolutely. Like I used to play that game like as a teenager with like a bunch of Italians who all cheated, and I knew it, and I didn't care, just I still could beat them because I figured out how they were cheating.
How were they cheating? How obvious was it?
There a lot of collusion stuff and signaling, and little things like that, just some bet side, whatever. But yeah, like. They called me for moon bluffing once. I'm like, what the fuck is moon bluffing? For those who never heard the term, it was this. The guy bet like 300 on the river. Or he bet like 1,000 on the river, something. And I grab my cash that I have in front of me and I start counting 1,000. I count 1,000 in my hand. I pause and then I start counting more to raise 2,000 more. No. You can't do that. It's moon bluffing. Once I stop counting 1,000, I can't. It's like in his brain. The way they describe it is,
that's forward after.
It's like saying, "I'm going to call that bet and raise you 2,000." Like in the movies, like that's how they had it. As me doing, because I counted in my hand like 1,000. Then I was like, "All right," and then raise 2 more. He would so the raise didn't count. Whatever. Fuck it. I still won the pot.
You're like that should be called string moon bluffing.
I don't know where moon bluffing came. Moon bluffing is like act bluffing. I don't know. Like you're acting. I'm like, yeah, I'm acting. It's poker. But yeah, I found 5-card draw to be the game in a lot of spots where people were just really uncomfortable. They didn't know what to draw. Like I saw some huge mistakes, right? I saw, but one guy, look at this fucking man. Philip Hugh was good. And I was like, damn. I was like so tilted because he's the only player at the table that would have folded this hand. It was raised under the gun. Jeremy Osmus 3-bet. I flat under the gun +1. The 3-bet. Right? Phil Huey has 3 4s on the button, fucking folds. Meanwhile, Kerry Katz, who doesn't know what he's doing in the game, calls and draws 3, right? So he draws 3, the 2 player. I draw 1, of course, because that's what you do in these spots. You don't draw 2, because then you sort of make it pretty fucking obvious what you have. So you draw 1. That way you can sort of merge, your like draws. So if let's say I had something like, Ace, King, Jack, 10 of hearts, or 7, 8, 9, 10 of hearts, something like that, I would draw 1 to that, right? Well, you also want to do that with trips, and you can also be repping 2 pair. But yeah, Philip folded the 3 4s there, and I think against like anyone else at the table, I would have stacked him.
Did you fill up?
No, I didn't fill up, but I won. But so basically, after the draw, Jeremy bet. He made a blocker bet like 25K. And listen, he can have trips too, right? Like what did I have? I had trip 8s. Yeah, so he can have a lot of trips too. And if he's betting again, his betting range there is like, let's say, it's going to be some 2-pair, but it's a lot of trips. So I just flat with a blocker bet, and I got called behind as well. So both of them had aces up. Both the guys had aces up. Jeremy had aces and kings. The other guy had like aces and whatever. And I had the 3-8s and 1-5. But I was really impressed with Philip, because I don't know that he plays a lot of the game, but he really figured out. He said it was obvious you had trips. And Terrence obviously knew too. So maybe it's an Asian thing. I don't know.
I said it.
I'm talking agent sometimes.
Never mind.
And all right, event 6 is the 5,000 mixed no limit hold'em and pot limit Omaha. I didn't look back in this one, guys. Any idea what the turnout and what the is this one a turn? Is it just big bet guys who want to play both? Or is it do no limit players fall their way into this thing event? Like I don't know. It seems like a one that might struggle for turnout.
No, it does really good, actually. Yeah, people really enjoy, like all PLO players will play because they understand hold'em to a certain degree. And then, so it's a decent amount of no-limit guys that mostly, though, you won't find no-limit players that don't play PLO at all. But I have a question for you. So someone gave me the stat. In this specific format, no-limit hold'em PLO mix, 2 games, which poker player has the most cashes in that event?
What? Mixed PLO and no limit?
Yeah.
How long has it been running? Like 10 years?
Questions asked because it's probably somebody you don't think of, as a no limit or PLO specialist. I don't know. Jason Mercer.
No, he doesn't play enough. He can't. It was just just think of the I don't know. Was it you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They told me it's me. I was like, okay, cool. I don't even remember. I never won one. I just remember, I guess I cashed a lot in it. But yeah. Anyway.
Who was the most cashes and the limit hold'em championship in the World Series history?
I'm guessing it's Terrence Chan.
It's not. It's David Chu. But I thought I would curveball you guys. I'm up there somewhere, but it's David Chu.
All right, moving on. Event 7 is the $1,500 limit hold'em. Terrence, this is your event that kicks the series.
Oh, and it's not. I'm not going to be there for 15. I don't. Ever since Daniel used his juice to lobby to make the 10K 8-handed, I'm officially retired from 9-handed limit hold'em. I'd like to announce my retirement from 9-handed. It's been a good ride, but no. I'm going to show up around like the 8th. I think there's 1,500 Badoogie and 10K 8-handed limit hold'em around the 8th and the 9th. So that's when I'll show up. I'm also in the thick of that. There's a baby crying back there. You might even be able to hear it. So there's my time is limited. I'm not going to be playing 1,500 9-handed limit hold'em, but I wish all my fellow min bettors good luck in that one. So
is there a bounty, some sort of bounty if anybody catches you in a 9-handed limit hold'em tournament?
I mean, the look on my face will be enough punishment, right? Like,
all right, online event kicks off that day. This is June 1st. It's the 333 no limit triple trays summer tip off. And then
that'll be what everybody's playing while they're also playing 9-handed limit. That's actually a perfect scheduling thing. So Daniel talking about perfect scheduling. Schedule an online event while people are playing 9-handed limit hold'em because you got all the time in the world to play online. That's actually great. That's a good job, WSOP.com people. Well, while you're sitting there folding, you fucking ace jack under the gun.
Nice. Friday, June 2nd, event 8 is the 25K heads up no limit hold'em championship. I hope one day they go to best of 3 in the heads up no limit championship. I don't see it happening though. But that kicks off another high roller there. Event 9, the 1,500 7-card stud. Danny, you going to play in $1,500 buy-ins this year? Of course you are, right?
No. So listen, for a couple of years, what I do is I concentrate on the high buy-ins, and I promise myself, let's say I'm available to play at 2 o'clock and there's a $1,500 Omaha 8 or whatever. I promise myself to use rest instead, because anytime I would buy in and then be playing like level 2 or level 3 of a $1,500 Omaha 8 with 800 players, I just like, why am I fucking here? Right? You never want to do that. You want to do that as little as possible when you're playing a World Series poker, where you're like, why am I here? So if I play any 1,500s, it'll be because, I did poorly in something else, and I will not quite max late reg because Matiso, don't do it, but show up probably like an hour before late reg or something like that, and maybe run up a stack in some of them. But let's see what else is going on. So for example, that day on Friday is the 25K heads up no limit hold'em. So that's what I'll be playing. If I were to obviously not advance, I think you play 2 matches. Then that Friday night, I would probably jump into the stud at max, pretty close to max late reg, run that up. But then, because then look, on Saturday, the very next day, you have a 10K dealer's choice 6-handed, which I want to prioritize, right? So it might not even make sense to play the 1500 stud. So yeah, you don't see me like everyone says I play a lot of events, and they're right. You're absolutely right. But I'm nowhere near the leaders. Nowhere near. Because I don't play any of the $80, the $600 live deep stacks, the mystery bounties, the weekend warrior, the ultimate frisbee championship. I don't fucking like all these gimmicky ones that are fantastic for the World Series of Poker. I avoid like to play these fields, like 3,000-4,000. I don't play any of them. Sean Deeb, Dan Zach, they drop a stack in everything. They will drop a stack in all these tournaments while playing another one. I have not double dipped in a tournament in well over a decade. It's just not my thing. I'm like, I want to focus. There's so many big buy-ins. I just want to focus on quality over quantity. Sure, playing all those little ones helps you with your chance to win Player of the Year. But if I win Player of the Year again, I want it to be based on quality, not some sort of loophole like Chris Ferguson one year where he just cashed like 27 times by max late regging, right? He'd be in the line. He'd get to the front of the line, and then he'd go to the back of the line again so that he could get in as late as possible.
That was fucking surreal to see. That was just the weirdest thing to see.
Like the only people that like it like the way it is Sean Deeb, because he has this idea that it should just be only about volume. I'm like, that's just stupid, okay? Very few people want to play be in a 10K event and also have a stack in the giant $300 buy, right? Like it should be. So my idea has always been, and I think now 95 events, like you said, you can do 2 things. You can do a minimum number of caches, so that eliminates the guy who just shows up for the main event and wins that, right? Unless he had like 5 other caches, he can't win Player of the Year because it's stupid. You come and play one event, right? So you can do minimum 6 because out of 95, I mean, that's not hard to do. And then after that, you count your 12 best scores. So if you cache 20 times, your bottom 8 drop and your score is your top 12. What that does is it eliminates the need to see, oh shit, there's a 1K PLO. I need to go all in, try to double, and then not even play the stack and hope that I inch into the money so I could pick up 50, 60 points in Player of the Year. Like, that's just dumb. That's the reason, it's part of the reason Razvodov no longer counted, because they saw in my vlog how silly it was. Where not just me, but me. I'm rebuying. Robert Campbell was rebuying. Sean Deeb, the 3 of us were in it, right? We're just silly. Blah, 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 going all in like this just to win a prize that pays no money. So for the integrity of it, to a certain degree, I think that would be a fantastic change. I can understand why they wouldn't want that one, right? Because you want people to enter as many events as possible. But,
it also means like doing it that way, like a guy like you, we all remember the year where Greg Merson won Player of the Year, which was I thought one of the coolest like Player of the Year wins. The guy literally shows up at the end, wins like the 10K or 25K, whatever it was, 6 max, then goes on and ships the main event, wins Player of the Year. That will never happen under the current format. Like, because you can show up and win 2 bracelets in a week, and you're still not going to win Player of the Year, which is kind of wild, right? Like, if you have nothing else, you can show up, win 2 bracelets, make 2 other final tables, go home, be like up like $800,000, go swim in your swimming pool of money, but be like not even in the top 5 of the Player of the Year because you didn't min cash like 17 times.
One other thing I wanted to add for mixed game players out there, for some of you, if you're listening, that stop playing them because you don't like playing until 2, 3 in the morning, we made one change.
Oh, this is big.
This is epic. And of course, Sean Deeb doesn't like this one either. He's like,
he's wrong.
Like, because it's not good for him specifically. Because what he would do is he would like usually play the early tournament, and like bag at 11, right, p.m. And then he would jump into the 10K that's going after till like 2 in the morning. So now we've changed the schedule so that, all the events are starting an hour early now. So instead of it being the 11 and 3 schedule, it's the 10 and 2. So the 10K events now, the mixed game championship events, will start at 2 p.m. Okay. And instead of playing 10 lows, we're going to be playing 8. So instead of going home at 2:30 in the morning and living this like fucking DGen life, you will be done at 11 p.m. For those of you that want to partake,
I'm so happy about this.
You can get a late dinner at one of these places. So many great places. You don't have to come back the next day till 1 p.m. How did we do that? Well, we didn't change anything about day 2 reg. You could still register on day 2 with the exact same stack size. So all that was changed was moving an hour early, from 3 to 2 and eliminating the first 2 levels. Now, wow, Alan Kessler, oh, you took out the fucking first 2 levels. This guy, he understood how bad it is. So if you get 16 people showing up on time for a tournament that gets 150, then maybe you don't need to be playing those fucking levels, right? For like 50 people. Clearly, the customer base is saying, yeah, we don't care enough about levels 1 and 2. So we eliminate levels 1 and 2. And now you're going to be starting at 800, 1600 limits, right? With 60K stack, which is 37 and a half big bets. Alan wants more big bets. And people have been trying to explain to him for years, like, Alan, when you play in these things, it's in your best interest if they were faster, okay? It's not good for you that they're slow. You know what I mean? Because, well, you know, for obvious reasons. But yeah, I think that every time we look at these schedules, like, I still think it's really kind of a little bit too slow on day 2 because we go to 90-minute levels. But I think like making subtle, gradual improvements. Everyone I've spoken to, all fail except for maybe Alan and Sean, love the idea of being done at 11.
I'm so happy about it because, like, you know, like I said, I have a kid. I'm up at 6 a.m. Like, that's my schedule. Sure, when I go to Vegas, like, I'll try to adjust and be Vegas, but and be on Vegas time. But the fact is, like, I'm dragging ass at 1:30 in the morning, and they say, like, where am I going to go eat afterwards? Like you talked about. This makes me so happy to be done.
You and others like you are the exact target audience for this thing. Someone like a Dan Shack wakes up very early to go to the market. I know, like, for example, Alan Cunningham, Bob Feduniak, Maureen Feduniak used to play them all. They don't play any of them anymore. And really because they wake up at 6 a.m. So how the hell, you know, it's tough. How do you...
Like, look who plays mixed games, too. Like, the demographic is older players tend to play mixed games because they've been around for longer. So it's guys in their 40s, 50s, and so on.
When we started to do that schedule, like, it used to be 3, 4, 5 o'clock, it would go till 3 a.m. You just eliminated certain people who are like, I'm not going to be done at 3. I have to wake up at 6, handle my kids, do my business, and then come back and play play till 2 again. Like, it's just not feasible for people with age. So the question is, why are we breaking people's backs on day 1? What is the reason for it? It's because of those first 2 fucking levels. That what's better? Like, just having a reasonable sense of life where you can be done at 11, do your stuff, come back at 1 p.m. the next day, or grind 2 meaningless levels early on in a tournament that 85% of players do not even partake in, right? So great change. Everyone I talked to about it. And I'll be honest, this was my idea. So if you fucking hate it, you know, you can shit on me. No, I don't take credit for everything, but this was like something I looked at and I'm like, man, why are we killing these mixed game players? For what? What's the purpose here? Right? Get rid of the first 2 levels, same structure, boom, boom. The event still is going to take the same amount of time, essentially, except for those, like, they're still going to be hard pressed to finish in 3 days. Most of them, some of them will end up with a day 4 with a couple players.
Especially like Omaha 8 or better, that's going to take a while. It always does.
And the way to fix that, and I don't want to make too many changes all at once, right? Because you make too many changes, people go fucking nuts. Once this becomes more established, people like it. And one other thing I was going to add is this PG Team Mixed Game Series proved that this is more than doable because we played 40-minute levels with a pretty fast pace. Everyone loved the structure, right? Now, for limit events, you don't look at number of big lines, you look at big bets. The number of big bets in this limit event hovered between 11 and 15 throughout the event, which is exactly what you want. Now, a lot of these ones that, you know, the hour-long level, you end up with like 30, 40, all this wasted amount. But essentially, when the tournament hits the nitty-gritty, you're looking at 11 to 15. We're just getting to the nitty-gritty a little bit faster. People loved it. They got accustomed to 40-minute levels, playing a little bit faster. So I think, like, you know, again, and the $1,500 ones for people that really just want the experience, those structures are slow as fucking molasses. I don't like them. I don't play them. It's not for me, but I get that, right? I don't want every event to be like what's best for Daniel. No. 1,500. These people, like, sometimes they just want to play one tournament. They want to play stud. They don't want to be broke in an hour. The 10K players are a different breed. They typically don't give a fuck. If they're going to lose 8 hands in a row, so what? You're out. You know what I mean? Like, Brad, not your day, right? They don't need like oodles and oodles of play. So the structures are catered to the client, to the clientele, and I think they've done, like I said, a really great job.
Okay, let's just wrap this up real quick. Event 10, this is Saturday, June 3rd. We talked about having the $1,500, a few days before the 10Ks. This is the 10K dealer's choice, 3 or 4 days after the 1,500. Events June 4th, Saturday, June 4th. Now, event 11 is the 600 no limit deep stack, where presumably everybody starts with 2 or 3 million in chips and forever, which is exactly, as Danny was saying, is exactly what these people want. It's a $600 buy-in, fill your boots and have some fun. Event 12 is the $5,000 freeze out no limit hold'em 8-handed. Terrence, 8-handed. You'll read that. You won't be in town for that yet, but that'll be a popular event, I'm sure. A couple of online events on Sunday. Monday is event 13, the $600 pot limit Omaha deep stack. Again, you're going to get a ton of chips, and playing pot limit Omaha is going to be a lot of fun for sure. Jump into that one if you're sort of on the low limit buy-in range. Event 14 that day, this is Monday, June 5th, is the 10K 7-card stud championship. Daniel, I'm sure you'll be mixing it up in that one. Event 15 is the $1,500 6-handed no limit hold'em, which is, going to fill, obviously, $1,500 buy-in no limit hold'em 6-handed. It's going to be huge. As well, that's the same day as the 25K high roller no limit hold'em 8-handed. So the big boys will jump into that one. Event 17, $1,500 Omaha high-low 8 or better. I'd like to be in town for that. That's the one I want to play. As well, on Tuesday, June 6th, the last one we'll talk about is another online event, $600 no limit hold'em ultra deep stack. So I guess 6 million in chips or something. So that's
not even a structure sheet poster for that one. There's not enough zeros.
Yeah. You're going to use a different font because there's, all right, that's the first week. So we'll go through a week each show and break down some of the different things that are happening in the World Series of Poker schedule that people are going to get fired up for and get out to Vegas for. Quickly though, I want to quickly talk about, I know we're running long, but the World Series Poker main event this year, there's really seems to be a push by Caesars to make this the biggest main event 10K buy-in in history. Of course, Jamie Gold, 8,663 entries, I believe, when Jamie Gold won. And they're pumping out the satellites. One interesting thing, actually, there's not any more single table satellites this year where you won Lammers and you use those to buy in chips, and there was a market for the Lammers. And last year, I think they had some sort of failed attempt to stop the trading of Lammers or selling of Lammers. Anyways, it looks like they've got rid of the single table, not just no limit, but single table satellites, which is kind of a drag. They were really popular, a lot of fun. I used to play in a bunch of those. I'm sad. They were great value.
You're arguably rife with collusion too, but that's another story.
Hey, I mean, I don't know, maybe I missed it or whatever. I had a lot of fun playing those over the years, and the juice was really, really low. Were they full of collusion? I don't know. I can't say it, but
there's been a lot of rumors of like teams starting, like I would say the last like 3 or 4 years, there's been a lot of rumors of like teams kind of working together, and it's like a really easy thing because, obviously the seat draws aren't random, and I don't know how much of that is true, but the rumors swirl.
I think World Series of Poker this year potentially is going to do some bonkers things. And speaking of bonkers things, it made me think of something that I forgot to mention. I did a little video for it, and I released it on my Twitter and whatnot. But for those that don't know, when I signed with GG Poker, one of the first things we wanted to do was create a flagship event, right? So what we created was the GG Poker Masters. So what was that? I'm a freeze out guy. I like freeze outs. People could say, oh, you rebuy all the time. I'm like, yeah, but I don't like it, right? I rebuy because they're allowed. I don't want them. Well, the GG Poker Masters has been a $150 buy-in. And we started out with a $150 buy-in freeze out and had like a $250K guarantee, which I thought was ridiculous because it was just a new site for the most part. And we didn't hit the guarantee the first week, so they doubled it to $500K. Okay. Last year, this $150 fucking buy-in, they guaranteed $5 million. Okay. And I said, if it hits the guarantee, I will shave my fucking head. And, I still have my locks. I'm still good. I did not have to shave my head. So this year, what do they do, right? So they didn't hit the guarantee. So what do? What did the people at GG Poker do? They just said, you know what? Fuck it. Let's make it $10 million. So the guarantee is $10 million. It's a $150 buy-in freeze out per flight. So that you could bust and then, play the next flights and stuff like that. And there'll be multiple flights. But it's $10 fucking million. When I told him, I said, there's no way you're gonna hit this, right? And here's the thing. Out of my own pocket, right here in the right pocket, I will guarantee with my own money that there's at least $1 million overlay in this term. That there will not, that whatever it is. So let's say, for example, they got the 9.5. That's only a $500,000 overlay. I'll put in the other $500,000. If it gets to if it hits the 10 million, I'm putting up an extra $1 million of DNegs money. Come and get it. Okay. my wife, because so here's the thing. Amanda didn't want me shaving my head. So instead, I'm putting up but that's how confident I am, right? Like, they're just crazy. And I love it, but I hate it. One, I don't hate it. I love it, but it's nuts. Like, that's one of the ways in which GG Poker likes to give back, right? There's a lot of different programs you can do, whether they're, this or that. But in this case, really crazy guarantees, creating like super special events. I hope to see the World Series of Poker at some point, the main event adopt something crazy too, but it doesn't need it. You know what I mean? But these other things that GG Poker does is it's like crazy how it's almost like they get off on missing guarantees. Like, buddy, this thing's going to cost you millions of dollars. You know that, right? And they're like, yeah, it's cool.
It's like the old crazy car salesman commercials in the 80s. It's like, I love giving away money. Like,
yeah. For 1990, yeah, exactly. With the freaky guys with the hats. We have them here in Vegas.
Is there a date? That's the GG Masters. Do we have a date on that?
Yeah, I do, but I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, well, while I'm talking about the satelliting of the World Series Poker main event, you find that date. Because not only is GG doing that, there is, in cooperation with the World Series of Poker, GG is going to GG is going to award 600 seats to the main event of the World Series of Poker. 500 through the tournament software, and 100 through Club GG. 100 seats through Club GG. I think it's $49.99. And is it still $50 a month, Daniel? Sign up for Club GG.
50, I believe so.
Yeah.
So I'm looking it up. You told me to do homework, so I'm looking it up.
All right. But getting back to it, like we're on pace, and we're aiming to get the biggest main event in World Series of Poker history.
It's February 19th.
February 19th is 6 days.
February 19th is day 1A for the $150 flight. And then, of course, there'll be like one basically every day for a little while here. I can't really see that well. Whatever, it's dark. But yeah, February 19th. So just check the GG. And of course, I know every time we do this podcast, people go like, hey, I can't play. I'm like, where are you at? Idaho. I'm like, I know. Sorry. Can't help you. This is obviously for people that are in a region where
the rest of the world. Yeah, for sure. But again, 600 seats coming through GG Poker to the World Series Poker main event. If you had to bet, Terrence Chan, that the World Series of Poker would have the biggest field in their history for the main event, would you bet yes or no?
I would always bet the no. I liked that they try. I like that they're trying. I like that GG's, that they've got a partnership. And if anything does it, like we've definitely witnessed a renaissance of poker since the COVID years. Numbers have gone up. They've consistently surprised me. I still think that like 8,700 or whatever Jimmy Gold year is a bridge too far. If there's a rapid turnaround in the economy, maybe, but I would bet the no, and I would lay a price, but that doesn't mean I'm down.
Price would you lay? Because I want
Huckleberry right over here.
I want $100.
It's the 100 to 1 thing again?
This is not 100 to 1. It's a price, not an idiot.
Give me 2 to 1 on 100.
I'll give you 2 to 1 on 100. Sure.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. So I actually, I think like from what Terrence said about the economy, I think barring a economic collapse, I think that we are going to have the biggest World Series poker ever main event. Numbers are just so big across the board. Poker's hot right now. Poker's so in, right? That I really think that this is going to be the year that surpasses Jamie Gold's, special year.
Thank you for not killing my action before I got 2 to 1 from Terrence.
Yeah. I was like, well,
that's I'm fine with it. Make a note for episode number 170 that I'm going to collect $100 from Adam. We're betting American dollars, by the way, Adam.
Well, good. I'm happy about that. All right. We are way over. We got a couple more little things we're not going to get to this week, maybe the following week. But thanks so much to you guys for getting together to this week. And thanks to you out there for listening to the podcast. We will talk to you soon.